I can just shout. Hello? Okay, maybe we'll just like hold it kind of far from me.
I kind of like it. It's kind of vaporwave. Like I'm echoing into all these people's dreams tonight.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for bringing your film down and sharing that with us. Now, Scott, a little bit more intimate. Oh my God, Scott, this is great. Okay.
You're doing great.
Thank you, Vera. Man, I had so many questions when I was watching this, but the first one is, what was it like for you to shoot a film that was almost entirely like on green screen?
A nightmare. I mean, that was the only reason. I knew from the beginning that was going to be how we would make it, and this was made during pre-vax COVID. This is really hard to do.
This was made during pre-vax COVID, so like it was even more just like a necessity, like, because it's a huge cast, like we couldn't really all be in the same room, and we wanted to be like as safe as possible and stuff. So like, yeah, and I had a lot of green screen experience. I came up as an editor and a VFX artist, but I did not know my limits at all when I started this, and it really was like, I think the hardest part of the process was getting rid of all that pesky blue screen, because we couldn't use green because my hair was green. So, yeah.
Another thing that immediately just, it was crazy to watch this film for the first time, because that's just like not really an experience you have, like, particularly for some program at a film festival, to just like not know what you're getting.
I couldn't believe none of you. I got so nervous when I found out this morning that literally nobody at this film festival had seen this movie. Thank you.
But something that just immediately struck me was the use of like mixed media. Like I'm obsessed with mixed media, like movie making, and just like mashing shit together until it works. And you like, I don't know, kind of mastered that art. Can you talk about what that process was like for you? Like,
sure. Well, like I said in the intro, like it really did start as this like remix film that was going to be using a lot of footage that I didn't own. And when it became, something else, and my co-writer and I started like writing a script, we basically like opened up the creative process to anybody. I used to have a web series called Hot Topics with Vera Drew that was all about, it was the only show with the express purpose of getting me sponsored by Hot Topic. I never got sponsored by Hot Topic. I'm too something for Hot Topic. But on that show, I announced that I was, going to be making a really gay Batman movie with a trans Joker, and if like any animators or editors or musicians wanted to, be a part of it, like kind of as a community project. They could, and like I woke up that next day to like an inbox full of like 200 wildly talented people that also wanted to make a gay Batman movie. Like, first of all, like, oh, thank God I'm not the only one that wants to watch this or make this. But it was such a crazy opportunity that I just do not take for granted, that I had like a small army of people, like 200 animators and artists, kind of helping us make this story. And I've always loved mixed media films. I really did grow up on like Michel Gondry, and I also was like an experimental filmmaker snob in college and stuff, and I always wanted to make something like this, and it really was just like, it just made sense for this project to kind of do that. And now I'd like to do something else, because it's exhausting trying to find a unified aesthetic.
The conversation in the film at the
I've had that conversation with my mother, and it was just like I don't know, what was it cathartic for you to like make a film that like really is rooted in kind of your trauma and these things that are like very can be, I don't know, just like a lot.
Yeah, I mean, like, the movie really did, I can't stress enough how this really did just start as like kind of a joke. And like, also very specifically, like, I was trying to process a lot. Like, coming out in comedy is not fun. I mean, coming out as trans isn't fun, really, in any sort of version of America right now. But the alternative comedy community is not particularly, like, welcoming. So that in and of itself was very traumatic, and I had gone through this pretty intense relationship where I was also, you know, simultaneously finding myself and figuring out who I was, and I think love and support and everything got really confusing when I came out, and I really needed to like just sit down. And I mean, I should have just journaled or like write a poem or something. But you know, I instead, yeah, really looked at my life, and you know, the movie's a lot more autobiographical than I should probably admit. Like, it's very deeply personal, both to me and my co-writers, who's also queer. But you know, and I'm not gonna lie, like, making it was honestly traumatic at times. Like, it was honestly kind of, you know, like, I had a therapist warn me of this before I started the process, but it was kind of like ripping the Band-Aid off, and, you know, or ripping the scab off sometimes. But you know, every step of the way, even when I come up against that, it proved to be like wildly therapeutic. And now especially, you know, watching it with an audience, like hearing people laugh at like suicide notes and stuff, it's like completely, I mean, it's like healed a lot of this stuff for me, and I feel, I don't know, like I really needed to make this movie so that I could make other stuff, because a lot of this was just things I needed to share with everybody. And I've always believed too, in specifically like queer storytelling, and in coming of age stories, and specificity and personal experience is so valuable for an audience. And we all think that like we have like our own personal stories, and that like our problems are special and stuff. And I mean, but it's like you said, you had that fight with your mom. You know, I think there was something in me in the beginning of this process that was like, I think other people might have a similar story to mine and might need to see this. And I need to like meet those people too, because I feel so wildly alone. And yeah, it's been a really, I mean, a crazy, you know, past several months since we premiered this at TIFF, but it's been a very beautiful and like healing and deeply weird reality-bending experience.
I love to hear that. Can you speak a little about what that experience was like at TIFF?
Yeah, so for those who don't know, we premiered this at Toronto International Film Festival, which is rather fancy. And we, you know, I actually was reached out to from them like a year before we even finished the movie. Peter Kaplowski, who is the programmer of the Midnight Madness series there, found out about the project and was like, when you're done with Joker, you need to submit it to TIFF. And I was like, what? Like, oh, what? Who are you? But I did, and you know, he had to convince a lot of people at TIFF that this movie was, that we were able to even show it. And thank you for also convincing everybody here. I mean, so he really, like, right up until like a month before we were supposed to premiere, I wasn't even certain that, I was going to need to like renew my passport or whatever. But we did finally get in. And then the Friday, so like 4 days before we were supposed to premiere, I got a call from my manager, and she said, we got the call, Warner Brothers would like to watch the movie. Which is, I mean, like, if they had like reached out a week before, I probably would have been excited, to be honest. But like, it was like, oh no, they waited till 4 days, and I saw it all happening kind of before my eyes. So I had a whole weekend to think about that. And then we had our press day, and at the end of the press day, we were all celebrating because we didn't hear from Warner Brothers, and the next day we were supposed to premiere. So I was getting drunk in the streets of Toronto when I got another call from my manager that says, Warner Brothers came back to us with an angry letter that says they do not feel the film falls under parody or fair use. So there are now rumors of me in Toronto that, because I also, my zipper was broken when I got this call, and I had been drinking all day. I was just a Joker mess, crying in the street, screaming, oh, that's funny. We're just gonna do it. And we did. We went searching for like another venue. I think we had 2 backup plans, because I'm probably not supposed to say this, but like my entire team that was representing me really did not want us to screen the movie after that. But I had just finished the movie. I literally finished it like the day I was supposed to leave. I hit export, and then I got in a car and went to LAX to go to Toronto to premiere it. So I was just like, whatever, we're here, we're gonna do it. And while that conversation was happening, Peter Koplowski, the same programmer who selected the film, spent the entire day trying to get a hold of Warner Brothers. And it was like, I mean, the best description, if you've ever seen Magnolia, and like, there's that whole like Philip Seymour Hoffman trying to get a hold of like Frank T.J. Mackey to tell him that his dad's dying, and he's like, this is the part of the movie where the guy, like that was basically what Peter was doing all day. And they finally did get through to the head of Warner Canada, who was already, I think, aware of what was going on. And, they basically were like, look, we have like an army of queer people in Toronto that have already bought tickets to this movie. You waited till the night before to fuck with this girl, and like, what can we do? So Warner Brothers actually gave us the go-ahead to premiere it that night, with the condition that we then pull like our press screenings and stuff. So I got to have this premiere. It was wildly surreal. I don't really even remember it because I had spent the whole day thinking that we weren't going to premiere, and then I got there and it was just this beautiful like fairy tale version of what a film premiere could be, and like every single joke landed. Mr. Boob got like a fucking standing ovation. People were dancing in the theater. I'm sorry, this is so vulgar, but a girl literally asked me after the movie to sign her boobs. Like, it was like, what? It's like, I could never imagine this weird movie. And then, the next day, we woke up to like a bunch of articles that were just like, talking about my movie on the front page of Variety or Deadline. And it kind of completely backfired on Warner Brothers, because everybody knew what happened, because we talked about it Q&A after the movie, and them kind of coming after us and doing that only sort of added to people's interest to see it, which is, I think, kind of why we've been able to screen it a few times since, because I don't think they want to, like,
poke this bear anymore. Because, yeah, the press is kind of on our side at least.
Never underestimate angry gays.
But I needed it to be that long so that it could actually be funny. And so they could know too that like movies like not on her side here. Like this joke sucks. And yeah, I mean the only other thing I wanted to bring up was the you know, a lot of people on the creative team did not like the Jason Todd stuff. And particularly the like alley scene, you know, where Jason kind of monologues about what you know, what he went through being Robin and stuff. And that was one that I didn't know if I should fight for, because I kind of understood what everybody was saying. It's 45 minutes into the movie. The break, like one of the funniest movies hopefully you've ever seen, and then it slams on the brakes and then tells you this fucked up Batman and Robin story. But I think what really kind of kept me, I love Jason Todd, who was one of the actual Robins in Batman canon, and I feel like he was kind of done wrong. Readers basically got to vote whether or not they killed off Jason Todd, and everybody hated him since they voted off to kill him, which is just so cruel. And it's also just so cruel, the idea of a billionaire just working with kids out and fighting crime and stuff. To me, it was like, it kind of was just, it was circling a lot of things that I felt like this movie should talk about, and that it was all kind of there, and I really wanted to give Jason like an actual story that wasn't just about like, you know, what happened in the books and stuff. And I think, you know, the people that disagree with me about including that even, I think kind of see now seeing it in the context of the movie, like, to me, like, it's not talked about enough how much queer people actually do traumatize each other. And it's so much of that, you know, not to like pin blame or whatever, but so much of that just comes from upbringing and just this idea that like trauma can be passed on from person to person, even if it's a person that is like loves you unconditionally, like that can happen. So I think it was just very important for me to kind of show that as well. Sorry, I'm talking a lot. But I think it's great to have, I have to hate myself publicly as much as possible.
Okay, audience questions. You can just shout it out and I'll repeat it for you on the microphone. What's up?
How's your relationship with your mother now?
The question is, what is the relationship with mom now?
I mean, I don't know. I haven't talked to her in a few years, but I think if and when she ever sees this movie, I think she will actually love it, just because she's an artist. I don't know that she'll love the subject matter or how mothers are portrayed. But I think, you know, she'll appreciate it. And you know, I really did. This was about healing for me.
I have a very complicated relationship with my parents. Like, they really did kind of reject, they loved having a gay son, they hated having a trans daughter. And when I, came out the second time, it went really, really badly. And there was a lot of anger there that I really did need to process, and process in a healthy way too, because you can only tell your parents fuck you to their face sometimes. And I wanted the story itself to sort of begin the healing process in my head, because I do think my parents and a lot of parents of queer people really do. I mean, it's not to sound like the worst therapists in the world, but like we work with what we're given, and I do think even the worst parents sometimes are trying their best. And I think they tried their best, and I grew up in the 90s, there was no fucking blueprint for like what happens when your kid goes to you, which that happened after I saw Batman Forever. I was pretty sure I was a girl, because of Nicole Kidman. Another one of the great things she did for cinema. It's there was very little that they could have done besides kind of handle things the way they handled it, and I needed to kind of mythologize that, I think, to sort of become okay with it and not be angry about it into my 40s too.
In the back.
Thank you so much for your wonderful film. One of the things that I loved the most about it was how you dystopified Gotham, and I hadn't thought about this until seeing your film, but I had taken for granted that the Gotham that Batman in the traditional narrative is trying to protect is this ordered world that should be protected. And I love how you question that. It would be great to hear how you went about thinking about what that dystopia should look like, or what you wanted to break down.
Question, I have to repeat the question for the recording. The question was, actually, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. No, I forgot. No, the question was basically how did we come up with like this type of Gotham and like this dystopian version of Gotham. So I'd say the first like primary influence was the Joel Schumacher Gotham City. Is like in Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, just this beautiful neon, weird like marble statues of like hot dudes in the city, and like giant weird clock buildings, and I really wanted to capture that just because like a lot of these were just decisions that were made because like I do love these characters and I don't love how they're always portrayed. Like I really wanted to see a colorful, gay, neon Gotham City again, because nobody's. I mean, when he was alive, nobody was going to ever let Joel Schumacher make a Batman movie ever again after Batman and Robin. So that was kind of the primary like first aesthetic influence, was that. And also, like, I really love how Paul Verhoeven shows dystopia, particularly in, like, RoboCop and Starship Troopers and stuff, because, like, he does it in a way that's, like, it's kind of cool looking. Like, it's like, yeah, like, it's cool to live in a police state, I guess. And, like, I think I kind of wanted to capture, like, because I live in Los Angeles, I grew up in Chicago, like, I wanted to capture what it was like to actually live in, like, an American city right now. Like, there's tons of unhoused people, and there's, like, ugly, disgusting buildings being erected that nobody lives in, because, everybody's a fucking landlord now. So yeah, I really wanted to kind of show an honest version of that, and I also wanted to just show, if Gotham City is like actually supposed to be this like, because part of the question was like, Batman's trying to restore order and chaos and all that stuff, and I don't want to get like lost in like a Twitter discourse thing, but like the idea that there is just a member of the ruling class going around and like locking up sick people and calling it justice is pretty crazy on paper. And especially when like his only excuse is that his parents died when he was a kid. Like go to therapy, do EMDR, or like take ketamine or something. Get over yourself. Like I think justice is so confused right now, and that's why a lot of people are taking it in their own hands and taking it to the streets. And yeah, it felt just very appropriate for a movie kind of all about chaos and city life.
Yeah, no.
One of the gifts you've given us with this movie is a surprising performance by David Liebehart. I guess I was wondering what your experience was acting and directing him.
Sure, the question was about David Liebehart, who plays Ray Shahul in the movie, and I loved your short, by the way.
Oh, thank
It's
you.
really funny. So David Liebehart is an amazing man who I met. I worked at a company for years called Tim and Eric's Absolutely Productions. I worked on a bunch of shows, Nathan For You and Eric Andre's show, and they worked with this guy, David, a lot, who is a puppeteer, a musician. He was also abducted by aliens. He's also a Christian Scientist, and he does take Adderall. Also obsessed with just like esoteric. He's one of the grooviest guys I've ever met in my life. That a lot of people meet and they go they instantly think like he's crazy, or they write him off as weird, but he's just so eccentric and just just a beautiful human being, and I love him. And I made a show for Tim and Eric a few years ago called I Love David. That was, the premise was basically we just gave David Liebehart a budget to make whatever show he wanted to make, and that meant, that there was no identity to the show. Like he wanted to do like an I Love Lucy parody. He wanted to do an episode where we go to Area 51. He wanted to do an episode all about Chicago, so it was really, I ended up just spending this summer with him, making this like weird kind of like, it was kind of almost like a public access type show. And that was simultaneous with me starting Hormones. I was cutting out a lot of the people in my life because most of them were dicks. I was spending a lot of time with him and listening to like a lot of like music and having a lot of conversations about existential things and aliens and alternate dimensions and he was just such a, I don't know, he would never, I think, be able to actually understand this, but he really was here for me, like early in my transition, in this beautiful way where he kind of was my Yoda. So I had to put him in this movie, because I also just love working with him. His eyes are just he's got the most beautiful eyes in the world, and I love how he looks on camera, particularly when it's like good-looking footage and he's well lit and stuff. He was on set for a day. He did not memorize his lines, which we were prepared for and we kind of assumed. So we had to go line by line, actually, with David, and which was hard, but also really beautiful because he put so much emphasis on every word, which was perfect for, like kind of a, Yoda type character. I love David Liebehart, one of my best friends. Wish I could bring him everywhere.
Yeah.
Where can I hire this?
You're asking the wrong Joker. Please don't pirate this movie. Don't leak it. mean, I understand. I torrent everything. But I am not a big movie studio. I am a woman with a ton of debt. And I'm trying to properly distribute this. So please wait until I find a distributor, and then go on Pirate Bay and have screenings with people in your house. But yeah, for now, everybody please just be patient, and we're so close to figuring it out and creating the movie.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for making the superhero genre interesting again. And they're all the same, and it becomes so boring, and finally there's something to enjoy here. And I also wanted to say thank you. You created an antidote to what's going on in this country right now, and I found this movie incredibly healing and beautiful. So great work.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, this has been such an emotional night for me. Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, wasn't as much of a just for the recording. Wasn't as much of a question, but more just a comment on like the state of superhero movies and just the state of the world right now. I love superheroes so much. I love comic books. I think most of them are bad though. Which I think is also part of loving comics. And I think, I really was inspired by Todd Phillips' Joker movie. I was shocked that that movie had any sort of class consciousness in it. To see a movie where like a character was basically being gaslit by his mom, by doctors, by the government, by just society in general, it resonated with me as a trans person. I was diagnosed with everything under the sun before finally just arriving at I'm trans. I'm trans. And autistic and whatever, and annoying. But that's it. So it really, watching that kind of planted the seed that you actually can, because we constantly have to hear all the time about how these characters are modern myths or whatever. And that's really just propaganda, so Marvel can keep making movies to support the military-industrial complex. And it's kind of true. I do think there's potential for these characters to be our modern myths, and I wanted to really, myth belongs to the people. Myth is about coming of age, understanding how to move on and process things, and I really wanted to do that in earnest. And I was so scared to make a movie where a child tells their mom that they have gender dysphoria. I was deeply terrified of doing that, and I hated it. I hated how terrified I was of doing that. Because to me it's so fucked up that the people having conversations about kids transitioning are the people that don't want kids to have access to the resources to feel good about themselves. It's the conversation is completely dominated by the opposition. I really wanted to create something that shows what it's actually like, I don't think, it is not my experience that doctors force transition on you. It is so hard to transition. I live in California. I am a West Coast elite, okay? I am annoying too. I will make calls if I keep getting put on waiting lists for things. It was a pain in the ass being a privileged white person who works in television transitioning. And I really wanted to make something that was funny, while also showing how challenging it is actually to get the support you need, especially when you're a child and nobody believes anything kids say. We just live in a world where more and more rapidly kids are just forced to just kind of fall in line and live with discomfort and fear, and I fucking hate it so much. And I really did kind of make this movie. I made this movie for young me, like first and foremost, and I did make it for them. And I don't regret putting the word fuck in it multiple times, because I do think when you're a kid, you should be able to watch movies that, you know, your parents, you know, like it's healthy rebellion, you know. This happens at every screening.
I think we have time for one more question. Do we have another question in the audience? Oh, Cassie.
Who's your favorite depiction of the Joker?
Favorite depiction of the Joker is the question.
Me. So I actually do love Jared Leto's portrayal of the Joker. I think he's a horrible scumbag, which is why, you know, I made my ex-boyfriend that character. I actually do love the movie Suicide Squad, and kind of love, I love like a Joker that's like a grounded gangster and over the top and very stupid looking. Like I feel like those are kind of my requirements for Joker. And I'd say the Joker that I really kind of, you know, I didn't like study any, like I'm not Daniel Day-Lewis or whatever, but I did want to have a Joker in mind while I was like playing this, and the Joker in mind was Grant Morrison's Joker in Arkham Asylum, A Serious House on a Serious Earth, I think it's called. Because I loved the idea of super sanity, and this idea that somehow being crazy and having like an erased identity, where you don't even know if you exist or not, like just somehow leading into that is an asset. That somehow being a crazy fucking bitch can actually like push you further towards your goal. It felt like such a beautiful kind of philosophy to have, like while I was portraying her, and yeah, just kind of very like relevant to what it feels like being a trans person, where you're just constantly gaslit and called crazy for, you know, wanting to be you.
Thank you. Yeah, you mentioned earlier that like it was very healing for you to be able to watch this with an audience, and I'm so happy that it meant something to you, because it makes me feel really good that, like, I don't know, that we were able, like as an organization, was able to like champion this film and show it and screen it, something that's like so, I don't know, like transgressive and out there and gay. Like I like to put as much gay stuff out into the world as I can.
Thank you.
I don't know, it makes me feel really proud that we showed this film, and I'm glad that it was healing for you as well.
No, I mean, I swear that I didn't say this after every screening, but this was like my favorite.